Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about proteins. I'll be talking about the structure of proteins, amino acids, what they are, how amino acids are processed in the body, the recommended amount of protein you should consume, and just different sources of protein. I hope to debunk a few myths that you may have heard about protein. And I also have all of this information in a link down below if you would just like that as a reference. And please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. The very first thing I'm going to talk about is the structure of proteins. So proteins are made out of amino acids, also known as the building block of proteins. So there are about 20 amino acids which make up most of the proteins in the body, and half of them are made in the body, known as non-essential amino acids, and those which are not produced by the body you have to get from food, and those are known as essential amino acids. And so amino acids link together into long strands to make other different types of proteins. And I have a chart in the link below about the different types of non-essential versus essential amino acids. So now I'm going to talk about the importance of proteins. So many people think of proteins and think that, well, it's true that protein does help with building muscle, but there's so many other things that protein does. So one of the things that protein does is act as a buffer. So it helps to maintain blood pH. Another thing it does is also helps the immune system to fight off diseases and act as antibodies. They also help in blood clotting in order to prevent blood loss, and they can help provide some fuel for the energy's needs. For example, if you are not consuming enough carbs, then protein can also act as a fuel source. And they also act as an enzyme to help facilitate chemical reactions and help to maintain in the water and the mineral composition of various body fluids. And they also help to interact with other DNA to help regulate gene expression and help to form most of the body's tissues, and also give strength to the bones, skin, tendons, and other tissues. The structural protein of the muscles also allow body movement. And lastly, proteins help to transport substances around the body. So as I mentioned earlier, protein can act as a fuel source, but it is not the preferred fuel source by the body. If you saw the All About Carbs video, you can see that carbohydrates are the preferred source of fuel for the body. So diving into a bit more about amino acids, I want to talk about 3 different ways in which amino acids are processed by the body. So the first way is that amino acids can be able to help build part of a protein. The second way is that the amino acid can be altered or changed to make a compound such as niacin, which is a vitamin. And lastly, it can be able to create a completely different amino acid. I also want to touch a little bit more about protein as an energy source. So when there's not enough carbohydrate or fatty acids in your diet, then protein can be burned as fuel, and it can also be turned into glucose for fat storage. I also want to mention that protein can also be wasted in a sense, and this can happen in several ways. So this can happen when the body lacks energy from other sources. This can happen when the diet supplies too much protein. This can also happen, for example, when there's too much of a single amino acid, which can be seen in the consumption of supplements. And also this can happen when the diet supplies protein of low quality. But in order to prevent this waste of protein, then you should consume all the essential amino acids and have enough carbs and fat in your diet so that the protein can be used for what it's supposed to do. So how much protein should you consume? Well, this varies by individual, and also, for example, how active you are. So the more sedentary you are, the less protein you'll need, and the more active you are, the more protein you'll need. I have a chart down below if you want to take a look and kind of calculate how much protein you should be eating. And in general, about 10 to 35% of your caloric intake is how much protein you should consume. But in general, you should be consuming just a variety of sources of protein. For example, seafood, lean meats, poultry, nuts, and also a combination of plant sources of protein. For example, tofu or tempeh. But when consuming protein, you should look at the quality. So a higher quality protein is determined by its amino acid composition. So if a protein source has all of the essential amino acids or all of the amino acids, it's a quote unquote higher quality protein. But if you're vegan or vegetarian, then there's some sources that might not have all of the amino acids. So what you would do is just mix your plant sources of protein, known as complementary protein sources. So that way you have all of the essential amino acids that you need in your body. So once again, just eat a variety of protein sources, whether they come from meat or from plants, and you will be able to meet your protein needs. So I want to talk a little bit more about protein excess and deficiency. So when you consume less protein, what happens is that the synthesis of protein starts to slow down, and it starts to increase the breakdown of body tissue protein in order to obtain amino acids that are needed. So some examples of protein deficiency can be seen in like stunted growth and in impaired kidney and brain functions, and weakened immune system deficiencies, impaired nutrient absorption from the digestive tract. But surprise, surprise, there isn't much of a deficiency in the US because we love our meat, we love our protein. And so that's actually something that we have to be careful about. We have to be careful in consuming too much protein. It's recommended not to have 65% or more of your caloric intake be protein source. And so if you do consume too much protein, there's a lot of vitamins like B12 and iron, but protein also lacks vitamin C. So you just have to be careful of that when you're eating a lot of protein, that you have to be cautious and aware of that vitamin C source, because not a lot of protein sources have that. And also some protein sources are higher in calories, so if you're trying to lose weight, this might not be ideal. But at the same time, consuming protein can also help to control your appetite and keep you fuller longer if you're trying to lose weight. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the different types of protein sources. So down in the link below, you'll see that I have a list of different protein sources if you want to use as a reference. But there's different types of protein sources. There's animal-based sources like eggs, like meat, fish. But there's also plant-based sources like tofu, legumes, tempeh. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, like I said earlier, to combine the protein sources, the plant-based protein sources like tofu or tempeh or beans and legumes and soybeans with a plant-based or vegetable like a grain, so that way you have those complementary proteins and get all of your amino acids. Just be cautious also when you're at the grocery store, because I know you all have seen it, protein bars, protein cookie, protein everything. So just be cautious, because those bars or those protein snacks can have a lot of added sugar in there. So just be aware of that. Read the label, see if there's of the list it contains all whole foods, or they just contain a bunch of long words that you have no idea what they mean. Because when you're trying to lose weight, when you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, you want to try to eat as many whole foods as possible. So I hope you all learned a little bit something about protein. Maybe you've learned something new. Maybe I helped to debunk some myths that you may have heard. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, or share this video with a friend who may think this is helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And don't forget to check out that little reference that I have for you down below. It has all of this information for you if you want to have it as a text and refer back to it. Once again, thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.